Well, it's the 17th of January 2012 and Anna and I are going for a day's diving out at Apo Island. We've been staying at Cuckoo's Nest, which is a really idyllic spot. That's Cuckoo's Nest behind us. It's run by two Brits, Nikki and Jamie, and they have a fantastic place. Really, really idyllic. Anyway, we go off on their little banker. It takes about an hour or so, a bit more if the sea conditions are good. We can go in a straight line across to Apo, as you can see here, and if the seas aren't so good you have to hug the coastline and then make a quick dash across. And we're going to do a couple of dives, one in front of the anchorage, which is straight ahead of us there, and the other is to the left hand side, the inland side of the island, where the currents are a little bit stronger. Apo is a small island with just really one village on it, and some of the dive sites were badly affected by the typhoon recently. So the first dive is called the Chapel. So let's see how we get on. Mostly Apo is a marine sanctuary, so fishing is restricted, visibility is not too bad, and this was a nice pleasant dive. We just dropped off the boat and went for a swim around. There was nothing too remarkable about it, but it was very pleasant. Lots of good fish life. And Anna and myself just enjoyed ourselves. Nice, gentle, quiet dive. Not too much hassle. There's very few other divers there, which is always a good thing. There's a couple of them coming up, I think, in a moment. But on the whole, it's very relaxing and just lovely to be down there as normal. There wasn't much in the way of current. So we really just concentrated on taking a few photographs and enjoying ourselves. A little bit of a drop off coming up. It's always great, isn't it, to swim over a drop off and just see what is in effect a cliff face, and you just float there, deciding whether to go down a bit or have a swim about. Jamie took us along one side. There wasn't a great deal out in the blue, but it was pleasant enough, just taking a few odd photographs and enjoying ourselves. I always like looking at these sort of fan corals and things like that, and they're so nice, just sticking out there in the current. There's a banded sea snake. Fish are so funny half the time. You can just sit and watch them as they're feeding around or being aggressive towards you if they happen to be Nemos or anything. As usual, I video Anna taking photographs. But staying at Cuckoo's Nest is very well worthwhile. It's worth looking it up on the internet. It's a very, very nice experience, and they're lovely people. And just to be able to do this dive with the two of us, taking their small banker out, was great. There's no rush, no crowds. And just to be able to float about, doing as we wanted, with Jamie acting as a guide. Lovely coral garden, this. Not a very good shot of a triggerfish. Or is it? Oh no, it's a turtle. We didn't see many turtles actually on this particular dive. A lot of nice corals though. That was worth the dive. We did 2 dives on Apo. We had obviously a surface interval where we had our sandwiches, and then we went off on an afternoon dive. But this morning dive was just very restful, and we could just float about. The fish life is sort of endless really. You can just see so many things, and there's so many different shapes and structures of corals, textures, all sorts of interesting little things. And when the visibility is good, you're sort of spoilt for choice, and you could spend ages dashing around. So we surfaced, have our sandwiches, and this was just a quick look round while we were sitting there eating whatever it was. It was quite a hot day actually, so had to be a little bit careful. We were entertained by one of the locals, possibly fueled by a little bit of Red Horse or Rum and Sparkle. He was dancing away to, well, almost unheard of music. And that was it. So off we went down to the dive site called Coconut. This was more interesting, obviously more exposed than the chapel site, so nice bit of current to drift around with. Sort of spoilt it a bit for Anna's still photography, because it's quite difficult in a current to take decent photographs, but for me doing video it's great because I can just hang there and go backwards or forwards and drift with the current, and it's great. And the current here was medium strong, with a slight bit down, so I just had to keep finning up a little bit, otherwise it pushed you down all the time. But we just hung there and went with the flow, so to speak. And this site was a little bit more exposed, and fantastic barrel sponges. And Anna's just taking some photographs here. She could hang there, it wasn't too bad in this bit of the current. But they're fantastic things. Almost always empty inside. But they're a sort of pleasure to come up and swim past. So the current starts to pick up a little bit. It's quite variable, just depending on the topography and where we are. So it's slowed up and sped up a bit in different bits. But it's such a pleasurable feeling just to be able to hang in the current and drift along, going sideways or backwards or forwards, whichever way suits. It's one of those relaxing things, just as long as you keep an eye on your depth. And this current sort of picked up a little bit so that it was, you know, a good walking pace, which is just nice. You don't get bored. There's a certain pleasure about just pointing the camera, drifting backwards while somebody's coming towards you. Does mean you have to concentrate on not jerking the camera every time you fin. Of course, I am now gradually sinking, so I need to come up a bit. But this sort of diving is just really like having a guided tour, except of course without the courier chatting away in the background. So Jamie just took us on the sights a little bit, and we went round and about. I left some of my active camera work in, just to give the impression of speed. Probably if I'd been a better videographer I would have taken it out, but so we had some good fun really doing the odd twizzle up and down and sideways when it was clear enough to do so. There are occasionally little places that are quiet out of the current where you can hang around a little bit and then venture back out into it to take you on your next leg of the journey. It's worth diving on Apo if anyone gets the chance. It's not without its dangers. I do believe a party of divers were lost some time ago when the current took them a very long way out of their destination. And I think by the time the rescue party was put together from the mainland, I think it was too late. So, always one of those things to think about. I think we're just out of the current really here, just idling away while we do a bit of a safety stop and everything else. Those sort of housekeeping things you do towards the end of a dive. I mean, Jamie knows the place very well, so he took us exactly back to where the boat was anchored up waiting for us. We did some little exploration work around some shallow inlets and a little bit of a cave around here. The sunlight was really bright. So it was quite interesting, because it had an interesting effect of almost like a magic stone here. Never did find out really what caused this, but it's quite special, isn't it? And no post-production effects, that's actually what I saw. Little puffer fish. And then back onto the banker. Back to Cuckoo's nest. There can't be many better ways to spend a day, you know, than doing that sort of thing. Fantastic views. Nice dive guide. And back to Cuckoo's nest in the evening. Can't beat that, can you? Just sit there and have a beer, waiting for something to eat. Really idyllic.